Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to talk about your health insurance, navigating this maze that this whole system has created, full of confusion, full of anxiety. It's just surrounding it. And a lot of what we want to bring to the table in this episode is we want to empower you as the listener, or if you're viewing this, as you're watching this, to give you more control and give you a little more clearer understanding of what you're looking to accomplish or what you should be able to do when you have health insurance. So let's get into it. So let's just unpack the basics types of health insurance. So you have employer sponsored, which means those are going to be the employee benefits that are offered at work. A lot of times you're going to get some kind of a, contribution from the employer as they're offering it. So you're not having to pay the whole premium. Sometimes they're going to contribute towards just you, the employee, and other times they'll contribute towards your dependents, kids, wife, family. And sometimes, they'll just do one, and, a lot of times they're not going to do the other, but they're definitely going to cover you. So the other one is the individual family plans, right? Where you can get it in the marketplace or the exchange. That's terminology that was developed in the Affordable Care Act era, which, really was supposed to give people an opportunity to go to their state exchange, shop for individual health insurance that was offered. And, ultimately, there were either you have to pay the whole entire premium on your own, or depending on your income, if you chose to go there, you might have a subsidy that was paid for to offset some of those costs. Then you have Medi-Cal, which is what they call it in California, or you have Medicaid, which is what's commonly referred to in other states. And that is all based on income. And depending on, what your income is, you may be able to get Medicaid, which is free to you. And the last one that I want to spend a little bit of time on is Medicare, which a lot of people get confused with Medicaid, but Medicare is what seniors get when they hit that ripe old age of 65. And there's a couple of different ways you can get that. There are different type of supplement plans, and there's Medicare Advantage plans. So those are the types of health insurance that are most common. In some states, you might have some short-term insurance. There are other options, which is like MediShare, where you pay a premium and ultimately it's not insurance, but it does give the ability to go in and get services, and then collectively they can pay the bill, and it's usually negotiated. So plan terminology. Again, I want to kind of get back to the basics here. And some of this isn't going to be extremely exciting, but it's important to know, what a health plan actually consists of. So premiums, right? So that is the actual cost of the insurance. What are the monthly premiums? Usually this is all paid on a monthly basis. A lot of the premiums will depend on, if you're an employer plan, how much of that premium is contributed to from your employer, how old you are. That is indicative of, what your premium cost may be. And, it just really depends on, whether or not the type of plan you choose. You might, choose a very rich plan, which is going to be more expensive, or you can choose one that has a little higher deductibles, a little bit less coverage, and that means that your monthly premium is going to be a little bit lower. So couple of things in terminology. Deductibles. So what are deductibles? That is your cost share, right? What you are expected to pay, depending on your deductible. For example, if you have $1,000 deductible, that deductible is going to come in play when, a lot of times it may be for lab, x-ray. If you go to the hospital, if you have surgery, you go to the emergency room, you pay that deductible first. And then after that deductible is paid, then the insurance carrier is contributing a percentage, and you're contributing another percentage until you hit what they call your out-of-pocket max, which is the maximum, especially if you're in a network, that you're going to be able to hit, in a calendar year before the insurance covers 100% of it. Then there's going to be copays. So copays usually are not subject to deductible, but that's what you are expected to pay, when you go to the doctor Or if you go to a specialist or you go to an urgent care, it's a fixed dollar amount. It could be $25, could be $50. That's what you go and pay when you have an office visit. And then we have the co-insurance, which I got into a little bit about after I talked about the deductible. That is going to be the percentage that you pay once your deductible is paid towards your out-of-pocket max. So if you have an 80/20 plan, that usually means after your deductible, the insurance carrier is going to pay 80% and you're going to pay 20% until you hit that out-of-pocket max, which is the maximum you're going to pay in network. And depending on where you live or what kind of plan you have, that could be $4,000, on a calendar year basis, or it could be up to $7,900. I've seen them as high as $9,100. And yes, they are continuing to go up and up as premiums are going up. So that is a point of frustration. But one of the most important things when you're looking at a health plan is access, right? It's going to be the network. So you hear a lot of different carrier names, but really you have to pay attention to the fine print about what that network is. So just because you have a recognizable insurance carrier name, you have to understand exactly what network that you're signing up for so you understand what access you have, because not every single doctor will take that insurance, or there might be a facility, a hospital, a specific medical group that you may want to go to. You just want to be very careful to make sure that when you're choosing a plan, that insurance is accepted. And a lot of times you can find this information out by going online, going to the carrier website, putting that find a doctor, get a zip code, the last name, even the specialty, just to see who's going to be in that network. So some of the keys to make this all less confusing, one of the things that you want to have is you want to have an insurance agent, right? That's what agents are for. They are the intermediary. They're the ones that should be licensed. They're the ones that are going to walk you through the type of plan that you're looking at. They should be able to answer the questions about, what your deductibles are, what your monthly premiums are going to be, what access you have, and really kind of give you the ins and outs of how your plan is supposed to work. So some of the things that I always encourage people to do, especially when I'm sitting down with them, where I'm talking about it, is I just don't have them focus on the premium. I understand that cost is a big factor when people are evaluating health plan, but you really have to understand what your needs are. So if you know that you're going to be going to the doctor a lot, or you're going to have an event, you want to make sure that you take that into consideration, because comparing the monthly premiums, will give you that ability to say, okay, well, if I pay this, my coverage is that. And, is that really going to suit my needs, or is that going to cover what I need to have done? I mean, 9 times out of 10, most people don't have catastrophic events every single year. Some do. Some have to use health insurance a lot. Some people don't. But you really just want to take that moment and just not go, man, you know what? That's just really too expensive. You want to be able to look at what you're spending on a monthly basis and what you're getting. So again, just to reiterate, it's not a one size fits all. You don't want to just focus on the price. You want to focus on the coverage, the access, and try to evaluate your needs. And also, that there's going to be unexpected things that happen. They happen a lot. So that's really important to make sure that when you have coverage in place, that the ins and outs of what your potential exposure is, meaning what you're going to have to pay in the case you have some type of service that's needed, or you had a catastrophic event. But usually when we're just talking about the basics, going to an urgent care, prescription copays, so on and so forth, those are relatively easy to identify. It's really when you get into surgeries or hospitalizations or ER visits when that can get a little bit confusing and it can get expensive. So beyond your typical health insurance, there are other plans that can be coupled, like a health savings account, which is an HSA. And what an HSA is that the government does allow you to have a dollar amount for an individual. And if you have dependents, that you can put away pre-tax, right? So you don't pay tax on that money if you have a HSA qualified health plan. So the plan itself has to be an HSA for you to be able to do this. But what's really nice about this type of plan is that if you contribute towards it, meaning that, you can contribute pre-tax towards your health savings account, that can build over time. So a lot of those plans, they'll either say HSA or HDHP, which is high deductible health plan. You just need to confirm with whoever's offering that plan and just double check and make sure that it is an HSA qualified plan. There's also other plans called flexible spending accounts. These are different than HSA. This is what we call a use it or lose it plan. This is more or less for any pre-expected expenses. If you know you're going to have a lot of dental work, you know that you might be having to have a procedure done. There are dollar amounts that you could do this. And again, this is pre-tax and there are limits. So you just want to double check what you're, putting this money away towards, because you can actually do this for dependent care as well. And there are some elements of commuter benefits that you can look into, but there's usually some level of cap, but it's another way that you can reduce taxes and have this available to you pre-tax. And then the last thing I want to talk about in this segment is direct primary care. I have a great episode that talks specifically about this. And this is a growing trend. And there are doctors that are opening up direct primary care offices, DPC for short. And that is a membership base. So you pay a membership base. They don't take insurance, but they do provide you services. So to give you an example, I have one. It's $99 a month for myself. It's an additional $80, for my wife and my daughter. And I couple it, like I do have a high deductible health plan. And I use a direct primary care for all the ins and outs, like, the urgent care visits, the regular doctor's visits. I don't have to pay a copay when I go in. And if there is anything administered there, like for instance, if I get a shot, of antibiotics, he just charges me exactly, what his cost is. So it makes it very easy. And what's nice about it is a lot of times I can get a same day appointment or next day, and I can build my relationship with this doctor so he knows me well over time. And if he needs to spend 30 minutes with me or an hour in the office business visit, it's not like your traditional primary care doctor that you have to wait oftentimes weeks to get into. And guess what? If you get to see him, you're seeing him for like 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 6 minutes if you're lucky. It's kind of an in and out. They barely have time to examine you. You don't even have an opportunity to kind of get into a conversation. So this direct primary care is on the rise. There's a lot of doctors that are utilizing this delivery system, I call it, right? Because it's a service that they're offering, and it's how it used to be in the old days. And you can really build a good relationship with your doctor. And, they do stuff over the phone. They could do telemedicine visits. You could do FaceTime visits. There's a lot of benefits there. So I think a lot of times when you're looking at, healthcare in general and you're looking to choose a plan, I think personally, depending if I'm going to have a life-changing event, like, if my wife was, we're expecting, we're going to have a baby, maybe I'm changing up the health plan, to be a little bit more cohesive, knowing that, hey, I'm going to have my fixed monthly premiums, right? And I know that I'm not going to have as much out of pocket, because I know that's going to be an expense. So these are just like real world examples of something that happens. It's pretty common. Or if somebody knows that they're going to have a big surgery, at open enrollment time, they may want to take a opportunity to look at what's being offered, and they may want to spend a little bit more every single month, so they can spend less when the services are actually provided. So one of the things that I just want to reiterate is that one size doesn't fit everyone when you're evaluating your plans. And you just want to make sure that whatever plan that you choose, that you ask questions, you make sure that it has the access that you want. You understand that, for that specific monthly premium, right, you're going to get a certain amount of coverage. And the good news is there is unlimited coverage, but you really need to find out whether or not, the deductible is going to work for you, the copays are going to work for you, and the out-of-pocket expense works for you as well. So There's some of these things that we talk about and will be talking about in future shows, getting more to specifics, some of the things that you may run into, because yes, I'm going to reiterate to the title, it is a maze sometimes, and it gets convoluted, complex. Sometimes people don't know what you're talking about. So it's very important that whatever you choose, that you take a little bit of time, get educated, and understand exactly what you have. So if you want to learn more, I highly recommend you DM me or just comment. If there's a question, if are watching the podcast on YouTube, drop a comment. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Charles Ernst, on YouTube, we're Hey Charles Biz, and on Instagram, Hey Charles 77. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next time.